Hello and welcome to Film Slam Stream's post-film conversation for Yatra. My name is Eric Siler, and I'm an instructor of film, media arts, and communications, as well as moderator for this conversation. We're very pleased to be joined by the co-directors of Yatra, Matt Alesevich and Hemal Trivedi. Hemal is joining us from New Jersey, and Matt is joining us from New York. Hello to the both of you and welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
It's great to have you here. 7 years working on the film. And well, when you work on a documentary, you go into it with one mindset, but 7 years later, it turns out completely different. I mean, you had no idea you're going to incorporate the pandemic into it, let alone find your subjects. It's just really, really great. So just tell me about how this idea came about and how it shaped itself over those 7 years. Real briefly. I don't know, Matt, you want to start, and Hema, you pick up?
Yes.
Sure. Um, so actually, which is some serendipity here, is the first frames of this film were actually shot in Cleveland almost to the day 7 years ago. Like our first frame was shot December 27th, 2017 in Cleveland. So the story really does have Cleveland origins as much as it spun into something else. So I went to Ohio University. I'm not from Ohio, but originally from Connecticut. And when I was at OU, I met a bunch of people in the Cleveland area naturally. And in 2013, through the Rotary Club of Cleveland and some other organizations, I got invited to be a volunteer photojournalist on a medical mission in India, which was in West Bengal in 2013. And I was just, insanely inspired. It was my first time in India. It was my first time on a medical mission, and to see everybody working together and all the passion was just something, that was the proverbial light bulb going off in your head, thinking, there's something here. I don't know what it's going to be, but it was something I wanted to follow. So I started off as like a journalist for them, a photographer. Most of these people partaking in these missions were retired doctors, so they didn't really have like a lot of young energy in their group. So I was the one that was sort of working with technology, getting the word out about them. I wrote a handful of articles. I did a 90-second segment for Al Jazeera for them. And, 2 or 3 trips after, like I went the first time in 2013, I went again in 2016, 2017. And on that 2017 trip, it was clear that there was some sort of film involved in this. So, yeah, I back how you started this conversation. I think I went to a filmmaker seminar once, and this guy said, if you end up with the film that you thought you were going to get when you started, you weren't paying attention. And I always sort of took that as a beautiful quote to remind myself once the story started changing so much over the years. Because of course, I mean, Cleveland isn't featured in the film at all, but in reality, that's where it started. Hemal, you can add to that.
No, I think, yeah, I think you can go until 2020 and I can add to that later.
Okay. But Matt said, that quote, if you weren't paying attention, but you two were paying attention. And Hemo, uh, tell us a little bit about focusing on Annie and Frida. How did that come about? Because you and Matt had one vision going into it, but you focused on them. Tell us more.
So when Matt came to me initially, Matt came to me in 2020. And he came to me because I'm an editor. I've been an editor and director for like a long time. I've been working in the industry for 18 years. And he wanted me to edit a sizzle. And I edited the sizzle, but the sizzle had like a lot of, there was just so many people who wanted to do a lot of good things in life. But there was like a lot of what do you call, the storyteller in me was, I knew that I wanted to like gravitate towards a single character or a single person. And I gravitated towards Annie because of all the people that Matt had shot, Annie stood out the most because Annie had this amazingly beautiful, pure, utopian, idealistic mind. There was so much innocence in her. There was so much, like she genuinely felt a lot of pain, a lot of, uh, she had this thing where she was genuinely in love. You could tell that she was in love with what she was doing, and there was this wound that she had, which is, she had lost her mother, and she was trying to heal from the wound of losing her mother. And that itself is a great story, because in a story, we storytellers look for transformative change in our characters, and that, like healing of a wound that was caused to her as a child is a very good transformative journey. And this was pre-pandemic. We did not know pandemic was going to hit, but Annie was somebody who had the most transformation. And that's why we latched onto one character, which is Annie. And then Farida just happened. Farida just like dropped on our lap suddenly. We were just like struck by her beauty. She's so spunky, so shiny, and so sassy, and the connection between Annie and Farida is so special that we could not ignore it. And so we decided to follow the story of Annie and Farida, not knowing what the story was going to be. We knew that there was something in that connection that was magic.
So the story is still being written, and when you set out, I'll start with you, Matt. Did you have a time frame on when you wanted the story told, or circumstances kept evolving? He says, "I can't stop now. We have to tell this. We have to tell this," and then you made a decision. Okay, we have to stop it. Actually, tell this story. Maybe continue on. Tell us a little bit about that thinking about why you stopped it at this point to tell the story, or why you didn't stop it sooner.
Yeah, I mean, I'm laughing to myself because looking back at 2017, I think, we were like, all right, this will be done in 6 months. Like I remember us thinking like 6 to 8 months. And yeah, I mean, Hemal's done this for 20 years. On the other side, this is my first film. I was a video production major at OU and have experience, being a journalist, where you sort of like spend a couple weeks with a story, you write it, send your photographs, it's up online in a couple days. So I think maybe I definitely had a lot of naivete around how difficult these things are. But I knew I wasn't willing to push anything out that wasn't fantastic. And I just thought that was going to come a lot sooner. Again, I was stupid, I was new, but I think that's what a lot of people experience. Like now that I have, through this process, a lot of closer filmmaking friends, you sort of realize that this is just the process. At first, I was really like kicking myself and getting stressed out. But yeah, I mean, as soon as I put a day of work into something, I can't ship something until I know it's close to perfection. And, I think here we are 7 years later having this conversation. And I think Hemal and I would agree that like, it's like what you've seen is the best possible product we could have put out there. And it just happened to take, 10 times longer than I anticipated.
Right, and there's no rule that says that you must complete a film in this time frame. It's just about telling the story and the best way possible. Let's talk a little about the subjects, Annie and Farida. Can you give us an update on the both of them?
So you want to take Annie, Matt?
Sure. Hemal and I actually Annie lives in North Carolina now, but we had a nice outing to a Broadway show here in New York on Thursday. We don't get to see her a lot because, like I said, she's in North Carolina. She's wrapping up a 2-year program at Duke University. And I think she's done in the next couple of weeks. So I think she's in a spot where almost our film is, which is it's about to be unleashed on the world, yet we don't exactly know where it's going to go. I think she's applying for jobs and things like that, while also managing. I mean, for those of you out there who have seen the film, one of the final title cards is that she's building a women's center for the community featured in the film. So I think right now she's in North Carolina deciding what to do next. I know she is going back to India in the beginning of January and will visit Farida and company. So I think, yeah, she's at that stage of like a lot of people out there might be, where school's coming to an end and it's time to make those big, tough decisions of how I dedicate my time and energy. But of course, she's committed to the philanthropic women's center that she's committed to build. But like a lot of us, we also need to pay the bills. So she's going to have to juggle a new career with maintaining that project on the ground in India. And I'll let Hemal talk about Farida.
Yeah, so Farida, after the film was shown at Cleveland last year, we have an update. She got married. She got married because, yeah, she got married because it was too unsafe for her family to, you know, sustain her. She wasn't safe. They used to live out on the streets, and with the father gone, there was no patriarchal male character to protect her, to take care of her, and it was a family decision to get her married. So unfortunately, Farida couldn't pursue her dreams of continuing her education. And it was very, very sad for all of us, but it's the reality that we all accepted. And so then we changed the film once again. We changed it and we included Farida's wedding, because without that, the film would be incomplete, because Farida's wedding in many ways was also an end of Annie's journey, because it was this thing where Annie realized that it's not possible forever, and there's no magic wand and there's no overnight success. It's always going to be this slow generational incremental change. And that's when Annie finished her cycle, her entire journey of transformation. But one good thing about Farida is that Farida got married. Her husband really loves her. Her husband is 21, 22. He's also very young, and he loves her, and he takes care of her. He has also promised to send her back to school. Now let's see how well he keeps his promises. But that's the update on Farida.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Yeah, I wish them both well. Now, Hemal and Matt, there's a lot of discussion about what to include in the film and what not to include in the film. Can the two of you take us through a little bit of the negotiations that you had about what to include and not include? Matt, I know you've visited India many times, and Hemal, you're familiar with the customs, and you want to portray the true story, but also you're going to be educating viewers also about what's going on. So I'll start with you, Matt. Can you take us through some of the discussions that you and Hemal had about what to display in the film?
We were actually insanely, wildly aligned on 99.9% of things, to be honest. Like we really didn't have an insane amount of disagreements, which I think other people with co-director relationships, I think I've heard some tough stories, but it was really never an issue with us. Like I could say that with 100% honesty and certainty. Like we were just very aligned on our goals, and it's not really something I could over explain. There was just a really nice symbiotic relationship in carving out this story.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And Hemal, I know you can echo that too. And as you can tell us about how the two of you agreed, tell us about how the two of you met, because you didn't know each other until, searching for this film, Hemal.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll continue talking about the storytelling process. I mean, having said that, we both agreed the edit of the film itself took a year, and it wasn't overnight because in the battle between context and story is the king. And we always just have to stay true to the story. Everything else falls apart. So there were a lot of peripheral things, like a lot of other characters who were very compelling, whom we had to kill. So there were a lot of darlings that we killed. Then there were there was a whole episode about COVID and COVID training, which we killed. And there was a whole typhoid awareness campaign that we killed. So we killed so many things so that we can really stay true to this transformative journey that Annie was going through, and this connection that she had with Farida. So that and that is what made the film pop, because in Annie and Farida's journey, viewers see themselves. In Farida, they see themselves, and in Annie, they see themselves. But if we had put all this other stuff around them, I think the story would have been diluted. So that's the editing process. So how did the two of us? Yeah. So how did the two of us meet? So I was just coming out of my maternity leave, and I have been an editor for a very, very long time. And Matt was looking for a South Asian editor because he had returned from India and he wanted to cut a fundraising sizzle for the next phase of filming. And my name comes up in various circles because I've been around, at least in the Indian and South Asian context. So he came to me, and then I was like, sure. And because I wasn't ready to take a big project, this seemed simple enough for me to take, not realizing it's going to take 4 years of my life. And I really enjoyed every bit of it, but that's how we met. We met online.
Well, great.
I know.
Yeah, there film, like you mentioned, there are forums out there from filmmakers to connect with each other. I must add that, Hemal, I'll tell our viewers that you're not driving, you're a passenger.
Yeah, I'm passenger. Yeah.
Look, so Matt, tell us a little bit about the production process. How often were you two in India filming? Did you hire a crew? Did you and Hemal do most of the filming yourself? So tell us a little bit about the process, being there on the ground, and also during the pandemic too, getting all that footage. What was all that like?
Yeah, well, we have to thank like the beautiful visuals that you see and we get complimented for. Like we had beautiful DPs, directors of photography slash cinematographers. And yeah, as far as the process goes, we weren't like living there for months on end. You could see that the story has like a handful of year marks in the corner. And like the average shoot, it was an 8-year process, but like looking back now, like 2% of the effort you put in to making a film is like production days on the ground. So while the film took 7 years to make, you're going at very pointed moments in your characters' lives. So like basically we have to wait, like you're nervous about what if Annie doesn't go back to India? Like what if something happens in her life where she can't go and our story's left hanging? Like there's a lot of like emotional energy spent on, planning these trips or waiting for these trips to happen. But the reality is the average trip, as many as there have been, like 5, 6, maybe 7, you're really only there for shooting for like 2 weeks at a time. Because it's a documentary and you need lives to develop. And whether you're there for 2 weeks or 3 months, you're not going to get much of a difference in a character's life. So you really, at least in this project, we didn't really need to embed ourselves there permanently. It's not like either of us for living in India for long periods of time. The longest time we spent there was actually editing this in New Delhi for 3 months.
That's good information to know. Hemal, I understand that this film has different versions in which it's been edited, keeping you really busy. Is it still being edited? And if so, what is the final edit going to look like? What are we going to see and, different than the, film that, we just screened?
So we have finished editing. We finished it. We finished because after Farida got married, we found our ending. At least that's because that's when Annie's entire journey ended with Farida's wedding. Because after Farida's wedding, she realized the limitations of her own ideals, and she also healed. Until now, Annie was also a work in progress. She was trying to figure out what's the best course of life for her. What should she be doing with her life? How can she make change? And Farida's wedding was like this wake up call for her, which told her, look, it's going to take a long time. You will have to immerse yourself. You will have to make commitments to this one community, to this one process. It's not going to be, you just can't brush over things. You will have to plant yourself and be rooted in this area and wait for it to grow slowly, like watching a child grow. And I think that's when we felt like the film ended, because the film is really the transformation. It's the journey of Annie. She is on this journey of self-discovery and healing. And through that self-discovery and healing, we see transformation of her and the environment around her.
So
the film has officially ended. The edit of the film has officially ended. We showed the film in Seattle at the CIFF Film Festival. It was a big screen. It was an IMAX theater, and we all felt so good. The final thing that we but the final thing we did with the film is we also recorded some original music with musicians from the community, the indigenous musicians from the community, with using indigenous musical instruments, because it's really about the community. The community may seem poor, but it's very culturally rich. They have amazing fashion, amazing jewelry. They have music that is thousands of years old, traditions that are thousands of years old. So if you look at the development of the community is actually not poor. In the modern sense of development, it might seem poor. So we focused a lot on that and music, and we could not leave the music out, because music is so much a part of that culture that we had to get indigenous musicians and record with them. And that's why, like the way Matt said, there was no stone unturned. We did everything. We dived into every little nuance that will make this film rich.
Well, good. Yeah, that was very important, just to kind of tie everything together with the indigenous music. Real quick, as we come close to a close, have Annie and Frida seen the film? And so tell us their response to the film.
So Annie has definitely seen the film. She was at the screening with us in Washington, D.C. Annie loves it. The first time she saw it, she just couldn't stop crying. The screening that we had in Washington, D.C., she cried throughout the film. We haven't shown the film yet to Farida because we want to organize a screening for Farida. And the film literally just got finished about 2 or 3 weeks ago, like about a month ago. So we should organize the screening for Farida very soon, and we will show it to her. We want to make it, ceremonial as well. Just like everything in that world, life is ceremony. This can also be a ceremony.
Great. It'll be great when Farida sees the film. So what's next for the both of you? Do you two plan to collaborate on another 7-year project or a 10-year project? What's going on next for the both of you?
Well, I think for starters, Annie like has not broken ground on that women's center yet in India. That again, oh, now that I think about it, the version that you have is not the latest version that we have. So, you know, back to, we keep talking about Farida's wedding. You saw a version that didn't have that because
Right.
we submitted this film to CIFF a year ago. So like, yeah, anytime I mention the ending or we talk about Farida's wedding, I forget that, you know, you haven't seen that. But in this new version, like the ending, which I'm sure, you know, we can share with you, is Annie decides to build a women's center in India. So through that process, like throughout this 8-year, 7-year journey, and Annie has too alongside of us, like made a lot of contacts. We have, of course, like a team on the ground in India that sort of keeps a pulse on everything happening with Farida and her family. So you know, we're filmmakers, but at the same time, we're sort of helping Annie sort of network her way into being able to build that community center. So I think that that's a project, like even once it's up and running, it's going to last, you know, many years and need some level of our support. So that's one part of the film that also is going to be a project for us for a couple of years to come.
Great, great. And the same thing with you, Hemal. You're going to continue working with Matt on this, or do you have something else going on too?
So I will definitely, be involved in the philanthropy project. And, and what's another serendipitous thing is, the film takes place in a region called Dasara, Gujarat. And I'm a Hindu, and, we Hindus have goddesses that protect our clans. So and we worship them. It's mandatory for us to like go to the goddesses temple and worship them. And the goddess of my clan, her temple is like literally 5 miles away from where the film takes place. And that was a pure chance. We never expected that as well. So, that is my connection. I mean, it's a land of my ancestors. It's the place where my people come from. And that's my connection to the story as well. Like, so I'm invested in the people, the community. But besides that, I am finishing up another feature-length documentary that I've been working on for 12 years as well. Can I talk about that, Matt?
Sure, yeah, of course.
So the film is called The Half-Truths, and it's based in central India. So in central India, there is a forest which is of the size of the country of Switzerland. And it's called the lungs of India, the forest. It's the last huge forest left in the whole of South Asia, which includes India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, where about over it's a place where 2 billion people live in the world. And that forest is under attack by mining interests. And in the past 10 years, the forest has seen 37% deforestation. I have been filming with this indigenous land rights activist, Soni Sori, who has worked tirelessly to protect her forest from mining interests. And she was arrested, raped, tortured by the police. Then she got out of the prison. Then she became a politician, but now she's a leader who is working towards protection of the forest and unifying all the indigenous people of that region to protect the forest. So I'm on that mission to finish that film. Hopefully that will also be over next year. It has lots and lots and lots of footage, but it's a very heavy topic again, but very character driven. And I think that's going to be a feature length.
Wow, that sounds very interesting. All the good luck with everything. With that.
Thank you.
Well, great. Hemal Trivedi and Matt Alesevich. Thank you very much. Co-directors Yatra. Thank you very much for sharing with us. inside information about the story and the process. It's just going to be great. Can't wait to see the final version of this and just to hear more of what's happening. I wish you two all the best.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for having us.
And thank you for joining us for this important and invigorating conversation. For more
Thank you.
information about our upcoming events, please visit us at clevelandfilm.org. I'm Eric Siler. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah.